search operations is still underway in 10 locations. Moving on, in a significant diplomatic breakthrough, India and China have reached an agreement to resume patrolling at key friction points along the line of actual control in eastern Ladakh. The deal comes after years of military standoffs since the 2020 Galwan Valley clash, which had left both sides at a stalemate. The agreement, seen as a major step forward in the disengagement process, hints at progress in critical areas of Depsang Plains and Demchok, where tensions have remained high. The Depsang Plains, a high-altitude gravely plain in the northwest portion of the disputed Aksai Chin region of Kashmir, is divided into Indian and Chinese administration portions by the LAC. India controls the western portions of the plains as part of Ladakh, while the eastern portion is controlled by China and claimed by India. The line of control with Pakistan-administered Gilgit-Baltistan is 80 km west of the Depsang Plains, with the Siachen Glacier in between. Depsang has been a site of military tension since the 1962 Sino-Indian War. In 2013, the area saw a serious incursion by Chinese troops into the Indian territory, resulting in a 3-week standoff. This was one of the most serious confrontations at the LAC until the Galwan clashes in 2020. We have with us, joining on the telecast, Major General Sudhakar Ji. He is a defense expert. Thank you so much for joining us on the telecast, Major General Sudhakar Ji. And when it comes to the line of patrolling along the line of control, India and China have reached an agreement. How important, why do you think that Depsang, the place plays such a important role in this? Why Depsang Plains, which is eyed by China, is crucial for India's defense in Ladakh?
Riya, good morning. Thank you very much for getting me to your show. And as regards your question, this is a landmark achievement in the history of independent India. Otherwise, it would have turned out to be, it was already a very critical threat and vulnerability as far as India's DSDBO road is concerned. DSDBO, Durbuk, Shok, Daulat Beg Oldi road. It's a distance of approximately 256 kilometers. Earlier we used to go on foot, take a lot of time. These days, sit in a light vehicle in the morning, up there, you are there, people say in 6 hours time in a light vehicle. So earlier it used to take anything between 14 to 21 days. So while this road is taken as a threat to the PLA, People's Liberation Army, and the infrastructure which have come up by and by in China towards the East Turkestan or the Xinjiang province. What is west of Pangong Tso Lake is Xinjiang province towards China side, and what is east of Pangong Tso Lake is Tibet, the Tibetan plateau. So China is very sensitive to any kind of network coming up close to his western highway, which is called the G219. The G2, take your mind back to 50s, and finally in the parliament in 1959, it was disclosed by the leadership of India, and there was a lot of debate and arguments and counter arguments on the issue. And China had built a road across Aksai Chin. It's a distance of 179 kilometers northeast of Aksai Chin, cutting across our areas of responsibility or jurisdiction. So when you ask about Depsang, Depsang essentially is an area which is over a distance of approximately 952 square kilometers. Some people call it as 1,000 square kilometers. Now this point is ahead or east of a point known as bottleneck. It denies our patrolling activities, Indian patrolling activities, to patrolling points 10, 11 Alpha, 11 Bravo, 12 and 13. There are 5 such points which actually depict the line of actual control. Now what is line of actual control? There is no line so far which is acceptable by the stakeholders. Stakeholders in this case is China and India. It's a line which had been proposed way back in 1959 by Chao Lai in one of his letters, which were rejected by our leadership at that time was Jawaharlal Nehru. However, from 1993 onwards till 2013, there have been series of protocol agreements, call it BPTA or confidence building measures. One was signed in 1993 by our honorable late Prime Minister Pave Rao, and thereafter it has been built up on the edifice of 1993, the BPTA. So what is this LAC? LAC has, which we earlier had rejected, was taken as the founding principle and the benchmark along which all the agreements would be developed. They had been developed. But all these agreements, they were actually junked. They were discounted by China by virtue of their arbitrary action in Galwan in 2020. So after this action, there has been a process of negotiation in keeping with the extended standoff which is going on. India has been at its best. 21 corps commanders meetings have taken place without any result. Thereafter, the diplomatic and the political level have actually rose to the occasion. They have carried out very extensive and elaborate diplomatic exercises, negotiated with China, and have been able to drive home the rationale behind acceptance of the LAC when the global order today is totally polarized and militarized. There is a huge divide widening between the global north with the south and east and the west. India being where it is on a shining, it is on a sweet spot, economic sweet spot. China is fully aware of the rate of growth of India and the likely projection which has been indicated by multinational agencies and institutions. Perhaps in keeping with the slowing down of the economy, in keeping with the kind of instability which China is going through in its internal order, and the conflicts which are ongoing towards Ukraine, towards Middle East, and the Indo-Pacific South China, I think China has taken a good decision and decided to actually play it down and take a calibrated stance with India, and indicated that they would be disengaging completely. That is how it is, I would say, India's strategic patience, negotiation, diplomacy and dialogue ultimately is paying dividends.
Major General Sudhakarji, there's also the fact that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to visit, and he is left for Kazan for the 16th BRICS Summit. So all eyes are on if there's going to be a bilateral meeting between Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and this comes just after this the agreement that India, the breakthrough agreement to restore patrolling arrangements in eastern Ladakh to their pre-2020 status. What can be expected if there is a meeting that is likely? What can be expected after that meeting?
First and foremost thing is there is no formal announcement whether the meeting, bilateral meeting, will take place or not. BRICS as such is a multilateral kind of a forum. But my guess, my take is, even if it has not been planned, there is no harm in meeting Z, because it's very important to kindly to understand that despite what is going through post-pandemic, the disruption of the supply chain, one realization has come our way. India's dependency on China to grow at the rate of, say, 7.8 or 8.2. When you talk about a mobile production, we are the second largest in the world as of today. But many of us may not be knowing the components which are used in the mobile are imported from China. So likewise, in the skilled labor, there are certain industries and factories where the machines have been bought long time back, but the skilled labor is not available. So we are dependent on them. So there is a problem of visa. So likewise, some compromises have to be made. The dependency has been totally established. As it has been established in case of China, they cannot do without India. If they want to become a rising power or rejuvenate the Middle Kingdom concept by 2049 or earlier than that, there is a greater realization in the think tanks and the intelligentsia in China that they have to take India along despite all kinds of differences. So therefore, my recommendation, even if it has not been planned, meeting on the sideline of the BRIC will be very much in order. We need to go ahead progressively, but in a calibrated manner. We have to retain our national interest as supreme and primary, and also carry on doing whatever is best suited for our country. At no cost should we ever cede a single micromillimeter of land, India's land, to China. Whatever we do, it should be in favor, in advantage to India's national interest. This is one part of the answer that I've given. The second part is, my take on the whole issue is that in all probability, in the backdoor diplomacy, some kind of tacit arrangement would have been made. There is generally such kind of meetings. 4 years of extended standoff is a long time between two nations in today's world order. And particularly when we talk about Asia century, if China is not there in Asia century, does it have any meaning? So it being what it is today. So there is a fear in the Western Bloc that if Russia, China and India come together, RIC, then perhaps the leaning which is being perceived today in the environment of India having gone towards the USA camp actually may not be taken very kindly by the BRICS-like organization or the grouping, and same vice versa. So in the instant case, my take on the whole issue is that India must go ahead, must talk to the Z, must leverage this particular thing, because there are 34 more countries. It is going to become much more powerful than G7, much more powerful than G20, less for the African Union which has been added, much more powerful than because it is going to comprise most major nations of the global south. It is going to be the very vital and effective spokes organization as far as the world is concerned. In my opinion, today, in order to balance out presence of China in this grouping, it is very important India's presence is there, and BRICS should be allowed to grow the way it is growing. As far as last word about the meeting is concerned, I firmly believe that apart from talking to Z or reopening the talk or conversation, we must outline certain things. That once an agreement or protocol is signed between two countries of 93, 2005, 2012, 13 and 96, it is unethical and it is against the rules-based international order to disregard it. It should not be done next time. Number two, when you talk about the patrolling right which was practiced earlier prior to April 2020, that must be restored. Number three, this should be taken as a suitable window of opportunity to be exploited to settle the border once and for all permanently with China. That will be, I am telling you, that will be a hallmark in the history of Indo-China relationship. Back to you, Ria.
Major General Sudhakar ji, what I want to ask is that the road to this agreement has been a long one. There have been various military talks that have been led to disengagements in several other areas. But what does this agreement, a breakthrough agreement to restore patrolling in key areas, what does this mean for, what does the return to pre-2020 patrolling mean for Ladakh?
Excellent. Ria, fantastic question you have asked. You see, people need to understand that the China Study Group, which in short is called as CSG, was created or established in India in the year 1976. It was primarily to address the security concerns so that we do not land up creating a situation like 1962. Because there is a perception difference. They are claiming the line to be towards India's side. India is claiming the line towards the China's side. There is no common border or boundary. In absence of a border or a boundary mutually accepted by both the nations or the adjoining nations, it becomes very difficult for the troops on the ground to go up to which point. In the year 1997, the China Study Group, they established 65 patrolling points from Karakoram Pass till Chumar, over a distance of 832 kilometers. These 65 patrolling points, they have some reference point as per the compass bearing, 9-digit grid references. These grid references are obtained from the map with the help of compass, as also other technical gadgetry. So after these points have been given, India has been carrying out patrolling till I would say 2013, non-stop, without any interference. came Xi Jinping into the power, and with his coming into the power, the philosophy of China, that is the Deng Xiaoping's philosophy, ki put your head down, bide time, continue working for the socio-economic development of the country, took a drastic and departure. And that departure, which Xi actually started, was nothing, it was an aggressive projection of power. From the year 2013, started the face-off. Whenever our patrol started going to these points, there is to be stopped in between. Because in the when our Indian Army troops were engaged during Operation Vijay in 1998, the troops had been pulled out from this area. China, taking advantage of this particular void, they actually intruded into our area, built some tracks at the number of places. They started claiming some features which otherwise actually, as per the previous practices, it was in the India side. So because of this advantage which they took, subsequently when our troop density started going up, the patrolling activities also started increasing. With the increase in the
All
patrolling
right,
activity,
Major Sudhakarji, thank you so much for joining us on the telecast and sharing those insights. Moving on, news coming in.